Hi folks, and welcome back to the Grumpy Gamer channel. That's it, you guessed it. This is that channel where you get to see this old git play those modern games. Well, for today's in-car comments, we're going to be talking about the stigma that's associated with being an adult who plays computer games, especially an adult as old as I am. People seem to think it's a little bit weird. I even had someone say to me a little while ago, I hadn't seen them for years, and we were talking about what we're getting up to now and things we like to do. And of course, I mentioned that I still play video games. And their answer to that was, well, I suppose it depends what stage of life you're at. What stage of life I'm at? Well, I'd say I'm at the stage of life where I still like to chill out, have fun and play games. So that was a very strange comment they made. But it just proves my point that as an adult, if you're seen playing computer games, video games, you're seen as a little bit weird. Now, obviously, when I was a kid, especially when home computers were coming out, I had the Acorn Electron, there was the BBC, Spectrum, that sort of thing. You were definitely seen as a bit of a nerd. And I think it's because back then you had to do a lot of the programming yourself. So they saw you as a bit of a SWAT at school, and you're a bit of a nerd because you play computer games. Maybe you haven't got many friends, all that sort of thing. You just sit in your room playing games all day long. So I think where a lot of this stigma comes from is in the early days, even in the 80s and 90s, a lot of the characters you played as were like on the Nintendo games. They were little tiny cutesy little characters, like say The Legend of Zelda that was on the Super Nintendo, I think. Loved that game. But I think a lot of people who don't game still think back to perhaps when they did have a go on a computer game when they were younger and just remember things like Mario and, Legend of Zelda, that sort of thing. So they think automatically, a guy of my age, when I say I play games, that I'm playing cutesy little games like that still. And of course, gaming has, for the most part, matured from that. There are a lot of games now for adults. Not just for kids. Obviously, Nintendo still does its own thing, still has its cutesy little characters, because obviously they still want to entice the young ones on, and I do know adults that like playing those games. They're just not for me. I prefer my more sort of adult-type games. Like I said, I like my horror games. I like games with a good story. I used to do a lot of online gaming, and then one day I just got bored of it. Got bored of running around, shooting people, respawning, running around, shooting people, getting shot. And so I went back to single player games, and that's what I predominantly play now. I like my single player games, like I say, and I like my stories. So yeah, that's where I think the sort of stigma comes from. People who don't game seem to think that we're still playing very simple, basic little games. We're incels that sit in our basement and that's it, that's our life, which obviously isn't the case. I work for a living. I've got a lot more interests as well, not just gaming. I do a lot of other stuff. But for me, when I get home from my busy day, and instead of just vegging out watching the TV, I like to play a game. Lots of people like to sit there and just veg and do nothing and just let information be pumped in through their eyes, just very passively, whilst I prefer to be doing something. All the way through my life, especially from a teenager onwards, I was training in martial arts. I used to do a lot of bodybuilding when I was younger. Yeah, you wouldn't think it now. A lot of bodybuilding when I was younger. So I was always doing something. In my spare time, there was always something to do. Go training, blah, 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 etc. I was always up to something. So as an older chap now, I still like to be doing something in the evening. I don't like to just sit there and do nothing. Yes, I watch the odd movie, but TV, I'm just not really into TV. So for me, I'd much rather sit down, crack open a beer and chill and play a game. And as you know, I'm well into my VR gaming. So that's sort of to me, that's a natural progression in my gaming, is to move on to VR. But again, people think I'm a little bit odd. Unless they're a gamer themselves and they understand it, they think I'm a bit odd. Maybe I am, who knows? I was in a lobby a little while ago on Firewall Ultra, and there was a young lad in there. He must have been about 13, I suppose, 14. And he was asking everybody's age in the lobby. And of course, I turned out to be the oldest. And when I told him, he was, wow, you're really old and you still like to play games. Yeah, I do. I said to him, yeah, I do. And I'm sure when you're older, you'll still like to play games. You know, what we got to remember is that the games industry is now bigger than the music industry and the film industry put together. That's how much it's grown. When I was younger, it was a very niche thing. There were very small companies that did the developing of these games, and it was sort of on the outer edges. But gaming has become more mainstream today. The average age of the gamer about 10 years ago was between 18 and 24. And now that's opened up, it's between 18 and 35. But like I say, I know gamers in their 60s. And if you want to play games, no matter what age you are, play games. There's no harm in it. I enjoy them. The day I stop enjoying playing games is the day I stop. But I'm pretty sure in my retirement, when I'm sat there going senile, I'll still have a VR headset on and I'll be still getting lost in some fantastical worlds. So that's it. That's my thoughts for today on being a geriatric gamer. I hope you like the video. If you do, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook. And also, I'm going to be streaming later. I've got myself just picked up a couple of games. I picked up Resi 8 VR and I picked up Walkabout Mini Golf because I've heard so many good reports of that. So I'm going to be streaming that later on today, probably around 4:30, 5 o'clock this afternoon. So that will be on my old channel because, yes, I still haven't managed to swap my accounts round and have my new YouTube channel, this YouTube channel, linked with my PS5. But I will get round to doing it. So please check out if you want to see how I got on with those two games, my first impressions of them. Yes, they've been out for a while, but I haven't played them in VR. So check that out if you're interested. And until then, guys, I'll see you on the other side. Adios.